we started all of this, and that was a long time ago. It was really 1998, and then Inner City Health as a service started in 2001. One of the challenges was, that clearly something wasn't working, and it was really obvious that people who needed our help the most were the least likely to get it. That our expectations around what we deserved in order to serve people, provide services to people, were just completely out of line. So expecting people, organizations specifically, but expecting organizations and the people who worked in them to really take that leap of faith, because their expectations weren't based on anything derogatory or negative. They were based on the thought that this was the only way you could provide care safely to people, that if people weren't willing to, jump through all these hoops and obey all of these rules, they weren't really ready to be helped. It really wasn't based in thinking that people didn't deserve it. It was really based in a thinking that this was the best way to do it. And so convincing people that way wasn't working, clearly. I mean, the evidence was obvious that it wasn't working. And so if it wasn't working, what could we do that would be different? So that was definitely the challenge. The Inner City Health Challenge at the beginning was convincing organizations to really take that leap of faith and to let us try to do something that was really different than what they had been doing in the past. And I have to say that once organizations got on board with taking that leap of faith and could see what actually happened, and the fact that it wasn't unsafe, and that people did get better, and that good things happened and people weren't hurt in the process, that really, I think, changed people's thinking immensely. And if you look at our homelessness system, if you look at our supportive housing system, if you look at our healthcare system for vulnerable people, you can see that access now is all behaviorally based. So if you can conduct yourself in such a way that you don't hurt yourself or others in the course, then we're there for you, we're there to support you. That's transformational from what it was 20 years ago, and it has been a gradual process, and obviously I would argue we still have a long way to go, but that change is happening. And certainly the moral imperative around substance use has not dissipated to the extent that I personally would like, but it is dissipating, and I think that people are increasingly challenging themselves about why they believe the things that they believe, why they've been socialized to believe things that clearly aren't true. The social constructs around substance use, many of which don't even come from this country, they come from the US, and they're based on knowledge, which was the best science at the time, but is no longer the best science. And substance use has been one field of healthcare where it has been really challenging to actually get people to act on evidence. And in part, it's because substance use and issues with substance use are so prevalent. There's no family in the world that doesn't have members who struggle with substance use. It is something which is pervasive across our society, but something which has always been relatively a source of shame and a source of something that people have felt needed to be hidden. And so when people have been successful, their success becomes N of one, and then the whole the right way to do things becomes based on that. And if you think about, if you took cancer treatment as a similar thing, nobody would think that my particular course of cancer treatment would be the right one for you, who has an entirely different kind of cancer. And nobody would ever think that. But in substance use, that's how it gets parlayed. And I don't, it is fascinating, but also really frustrating. I think we see that that's changing, but it is a slow change. And I also think that tolerance around substance use, and I don't mean tolerance around substance use, I mean compassion towards people who struggle with substance use, somehow that also gets colored by all the uglier parts of illicit drug use, the organized crime and social unrest and all of those kinds of things in a way that other disease processes don't. So that unfortunately colors people's thinking, and there are very few other disease processes that are criminalized to the extent that substance use is. I do think there's something to be said about, for example, with mental health, we really encourage people to maintain good mental health, and that, small disruptions in your mental health are a normal part of everybody's day-to-day life, and something which they typically can resolve with the support of family, friends, and community and their own internal resources. And I think that we need to be giving a more normalized message around substance use disorder. It's not all an episode of intervention. And and yet, the people who require that level of support and care certainly deserve it. They deserve to get access to it more easily than they currently do, and they deserve access to it for as long and as much and as many different kinds as they need to have a better life. I'm not at all suggesting that everybody can just kind of fix it on their own. I'm just suggesting that the message, if you have a substance use disorder, is pretty grim and ominous, and we need to change that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really appreciate as a person who comes from that community, with so many resources that you've helped drive here in Ottawa, is the concept that if I don't respond, I'm not abandoned.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And that, if I went to the hospital today and said I reported I had a recurrence, if I sat there and I didn't use any substances and I behaved well, I'd get more services.
Right. 100%.
But if I sat there and I took substances and I had some behavioral and emotional issues, I'd be discharged.
Absolutely. The more you need, the less likely you're going to be to get it.
And so that's an upside down model. And again, you referred to cancer earlier as a health model. And if I got a terminal diagnosis with cancer, the level of service I get is phenomenal. All the way to the end, including reduction of pain.
Yes, of course.
There's a great concern about quality of life.
Exactly. What's the best quality of life that you can have for your remaining years?
And with substance use disorder and mental health, the severity can be the spectrum is so broad that I'm always concerned about this person who doesn't respond very well. What is one of our community members, and how can we support that quality of life without ever taking away the opportunity for change? Yeah,
there is this sort of strange belief in the substance use treatment system that the problems with a person's life are all related to their substance use, and if you stop the substance use miraculously, life will be better, maybe perfect. And for some people that is true. I would never deny that. But for other people, that's not a reality. I have been profoundly impacted by many of the conversations I've had with people that we've worked for over the years. And I remember very much, a young Indigenous man, in his early 30s who was dying from liver failure. And the frustration and the moral distress around, essentially watching and supporting this person dying from something which was eminently treatable. And, even we're not trying to convince him to stop drinking. That was not a possibility. We're just trying to say, could you for a short time reduce how much you were drinking, because you are young and your liver's going to bounce back and you're going to get, a couple more years at least, or many more years of life if we could just slow the train down a little bit. And he explained, very convincingly to me that that was something that I wanted for him, but not something he wanted for himself. And that, he understood very well himself what he needed for his own quality of life and his own happiness. And, we had committed to him that, the choices are yours, obviously. We're along for the ride no matter what happens. We'll take care of you no matter what your choices are. Ultimately, they're yours. But it was very painful, but also a very profound, experience for me to recognize that I'm just here, we're just here. Our whole organization is just here to journey with you along the way. The steps you take and the roads you choose, those are your own. We may be able to help get you on some roads you wouldn't have been able to get on your own, but ultimately the choices are yours.
Absolutely, and I think that's such a compassionate approach, and the understanding and the respect for the people that you're with on a daily basis, that the organization is serving on a daily basis, and that becomes they say things about leadership that teams begin to take on the persona of the coach.
Yeah.
And so certainly from my own conversations with people that have used Ottawa City Services or Receipt them has been that philosophy is being experienced across the organization.
I hope so. I mean, I feel like our main, every success that we've ever had, everything we've ever learned of value, everything that we've done that was good really came from the people that we serve. That has been, in many ways, our greatest skill, has been learning how to listen to the people who we work for and to put what they tell us to do into action. That, and any time I've had, I've struggled around, what should we do about this? What should we do about that? Whenever we've gone to ask people what they wanted, what they thought, what they suggested, what they needed, they've never steered us wrong in almost 20 years.
It's a very powerful statement.
Yeah, all of the smart stuff comes from the clients.
And I would say wisdom comes from the person who can listen to the clients.
Well, thank you for that. But again, I would give credit to, to the clients and to the staff for, listening to each other and making those things become a reality. Because a lot of stuff that we've done, I think if you looked objectively from the outside, you'd say it's kind of out there. Not all of it has been mainstream or...
some people might use the word Wendy's a force in the world.
Wow.
And so, but the clients would use the term someone who has changed the world for them.
And they for me and for, for our community. I mean, I think we have shown as a community that we can do a better job taking care of each other and working together than fighting against each other. We've gotten farther. It's been better, and, people have had, I think, generally better lives as a result.
And we're a better community.
We are a better community.
For that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think that Canada suffers from a lack of compassion as a community, and Ottawa is one of those communities. And we don't think of ourselves in those terms. So it's an uncomfortable conversation.
It is.
That you're leading. Right?
Yeah,
it
is uncomfortable.
The reason we have homeless people isn't because there's something wrong with the homeless. There's something wrong with people that allow homelessness.
Yeah. Ultimately, homelessness is as a result of failed government policy, and none of us would like to say that, but that's the truth. We have policies in this country that are supposed to protect people from every social ill, including homelessness. And they do work for the vast majority of our citizens, but they don't work for every citizen. And until every citizen has the same opportunities, our society, is diminished. And that's why we all just have to keep fighting for all those good things, social justice, equality, anti-racism, anti-discrimination, social inclusion. I've always said for people that live with a substance abuse disorder, the biggest harm to them is social exclusion. It's not the substances itself. It's what we as a society do.
To people who use substances openly. Mm-hmm. So we're going through something today, Wendy, and I have the pleasure and the honor of representing the community of people that you can't see with me today. And the award that I brought with you today is the Annual Recovery Day Award for perseverance and commitment to supporting recovery in all its pathways and improving lives of others. And I can think of, it was a unanimous choice for the board. It's unanimously supported by the community, and I just want to take a moment to share this with you.
Oh, Gord, thank you so much. This is so beautiful. You have no idea how much it means. I mean, there's no community I love more than this one. So to be recognized in any way and to get such a beautiful award means the world. But as I said, this, you know, this is not mine. This really belongs to all of the wonderful community members who've taught me and been so patient with me and helped me all along the way. I would be nowhere if I hadn't had that kind, generous support through all of these many years. And also, you know, for leaders like you who, you know, are really leading that movement of strengthening that community and strengthening people who use substances to change the world for themselves.
And so if I use the word Wendy's pretty kind, this would be a great time to have that expression. So thank you from all of us. And if I can ask one more question, Wendy, if you look out the window and imagine a better tomorrow, what does that look like to you?
So if I look out the window and imagine a better tomorrow, I would imagine that everybody had nice housing, like not just housing, but nice housing. Everybody felt supported and was connected, that they could identify all of the people in the world who help them and support them. I would think of a world where we had places to come together, where people can eat and laugh and share and support each other. And I would think of a world where, you know, the criminalization of people who use substances, the racism towards Black people, you know, all of those kinds of things would be things that we talk about how it used to be, and we didn't talk about how it was anymore.
Thanks very much, Wendy.